Welcome to the Nation Diplomatic Dispatch. I'm Jessie CHAHAL. Today we're honored to have with us the United States Army Pacific Chaplain Colonel KHALLID SHABAZZ to talk about the Indo-Pacific Armies Chiefs Conference, that's known as the Ipacc, and the Indo-Pacific Armies Management Seminar, known as the IPAMS, as well as SELF, which stands for the Senior Enlisted Leaders Forum 2025. Welcome, Colonel. As they say in Malaysia, Selamat Datang. It's good. It's good to have you with us, and of course, for such an interesting insight into a little bit of your world and what brings you to this part of the globe as well. Let's start a little bit with the conference itself. Do give us a little bit of an explanation as to what is the Indo-Pacific Armies Chief Conference and what will that entail in the next few days here in Kuala Lumpur.
And first of all, let me just say it's wonderful to be here. First time in Malaysia, and so I'm having a great time eating some great food and with great people. So thank you guys for inviting me. So Ipacc itself, our Commanding General, General Clark, has some lines of effort, and there are people and partnerships. So part of the conference is just kind of reestablishing those relationships and ensure we can kind of keep the renewed friendship going over the years.
Well, you are a chaplain and also the senior most Muslim chaplain in the U.S. Army.
Yes.
What exactly is your role? And I believe you do have a bit of a backstory as to what has brought you into this role as well. Take us through that journey.
Yeah, it's interesting. As a soldier, I was what's considered a specialist, kind of general entry soldier, and had a lot of trouble in my life because of my past with kind of some trouble with molestation and failing some grades. And so I come into the Army to make my life better, but I'm failing in the Army as well. And I see off in the distance a chaplain. And he comes over and says, you know, why don't you become a chaplain to help people like yourself? And I got to tell you, I've never talked to God, but it felt like that was a God moment for me. So my role as a chaplain really is to help people who are in the most crucial parts of their lives, whether it's marriage conflict, whether they're having trouble adjusting to being a soldier, or just general depression or whatever it may happen. They come into the chaplain, and if they're having trouble, you know, the chaplain is 100% confidentiality. So whatever they're going through, I have an opportunity to keep that in my breast pocket to help them.
Right, and that is a job that it's definitely not a walk in the park. It takes years of not just understanding, but also having the right skills to deal with it. What exactly does a chaplain do on a daily basis? How do they have access? How do soldiers have access to you? And what are some of the main issues that are going through a soldier's head and heart?
Yeah, we have a term in the chaplaincy called ministry of presence, right? And so whatever meetings are going on, wherever the soldiers are, the chaplain's obligation is to be around those soldiers. And as you know, connection is everything. And if the soldiers see that you have a heart for them and that you're around and you can take care of them, that's how I get access to the soldiers. And it's not just soldiers. When we become senior leaders, our jobs are very stressful. So sometimes senior leaders pull me to the side and just need to have a conversation with me to let off some steam, right? And it helps them go on throughout the day.
Right, and so interestingly enough, of course, the chaplain and his role is to focus on the people, and that means diversity and people of many different faith and backgrounds. How do you balance that responsibility, and how do you wear, so to say, different hats in approaching the situation from a different religious angle?
Well, one of the things that I focus on, whoever comes to see me, my obligation is that they leave stronger than when they came in that door. So I am not focused on the person's religion. I'm focused on the person itself. And so how can I make that person stronger? Now, in that same context of diversity, we have something that's called provide or perform, right? As a imam, if that person does not want to talk to me or I can't take care of their religious needs, let's just say they're Catholic, I can point them to the Catholic priest. Let's just say they're a rabbi. Jewish, I can point them to the rabbi. So if I can't perform it, then I provide for them. So that helps with the diversity of the chaplain's corps and the diversity of our Army.
Help us understand the connection between the role of a chaplain or the need of a chaplain
Yes.
versus being a soldier. You know, it is perhaps sometimes a missed area, or there's not enough understanding or awareness on the importance of having a chaplain or an imam or a priest on site.
Right. I mean, a soldier can be physically fit. He or she can have all the external attributes that they need, but all of us have a spiritual soul, a spiritual center. And so the chaplain gives them an opportunity to come in to tap into that, because at the end of the day, spiritual resilience is very important. And so if we can get those soldiers to be spiritually resilient, that also helps our Army with readiness, right? And so if the soldier is ready, because we have to sometimes go to conflict. And so in those conflicts, chaplains are there as a sounding board for those soldiers when they're away from home, when they're away from their children, or they're having just general conflict in their command.
Well, speaking about being away from home, the USARPAC, of course, is responsible for a vast region,
Yes.
from the Arctic to the tropics as well.
Yeah.
This event, particularly the Ipacc, that is the Indo-Pacific Armies Chiefs Conference, that's happening and unfolding in the next few days. This is bringing leaders from across Indo-Pacific
Yes.
together as well. Chaplain, why is this a region, the Indo-Pacific region, a critical focus for armies and for cooperation in this time?
Yeah, this region is ultra important, right? And so one of the roles that the chaplains plays is because if you take in consideration the long hours and the arduous nature of what they're doing with partnerships and the coalitions with Ipacc, you know, the chaplain's role in that is very important. As we talked with soldiers, I talked about helping soldiers. Leaders need help too, because they're human beings. They're also away from their families. They're also away from their children. And being on the airplane all the time, they get to come into and also sit down with me and say, hey, chap, I just need a moment. You know, it's interesting. Sometimes I don't have to say a word. They just come in and sit down on the couch for about 10, 15 minutes just for a break and to talk my ear off, and they're going, hey, thank you, chaplain.
Take a load off.
Yeah,
so
just
to
take
say.
a load off.
Mhm.
There, you have the chaplain is a willing, listening ear, right? We don't have to say anything profound, but those leaders get an opportunity to just come off and let off some steam, and then they're back to work.
Well, Chaplain, we take a quick breather for a few of these messages coming through, but we will be right back. Do stay tuned right here on The Nation. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm seated with Colonel KHALLID SHABAZZ, one of 5 Muslim chaplains in the U.S. Army. He became the Army's first Islamic chaplain candidate, and he holds 2 doctorate degrees as well as 4 master's degrees, and has dedicated his life to working with service members of all religions in the Army and perhaps even beyond. Now, the conference is happening right here in Kuala Lumpur, Chaplain. It's really interesting for us to get a peek and an insight into some of this part or aspects of how the world works really in a broader sense. But the Indo-Pacific Armies Chiefs Conference, there's also the Indo-Pacific Armies Management Seminar known as IPAMS, and the Senior Enlisted Leaders Forum 2025 all happening. Where do you see U.S. chaplain playing a role for these specific conferences, and what are some of the key objectives or, you know, the salient points you'd like to see out of these leaders meetings?
Yeah, we do about 36 to 40 exercises per year, and you know, I think Ipacc is almost a culmination of that. Anytime you got leaders in the room talking and kind of ironing out problems, I think it's wonderful. Like the senior forum for the NCOs, the non-commissioned officers, they're going to talk about, you know, artificial intelligence. They're going to talk about readiness. And if you get leaders in the room trying to cross-pollinate and try to find out what works, I think it's wonderful. So I think those are the key objectives, really, just to get people in the room to talk. That's when actually connection happens. If we just kind of sending emails and, you know, having, thoughts about each other, that doesn't compute. But getting in the room, sitting down with senior leaders and finding out what's happening on the ground, I think that's always better.
I want to touch a little bit on social media and our well-being
Yes.
overall. Even you've taken it to social media.
Yes.
And, Chaplain has millions of views already, so you probably want to check out Chaplain's handles there.
Yes.
But there's such a deep link now between technology and what we see on social media and
Yes.
how we share our feelings. I'm sure that's quite the same for soldiers as well.
Right.
How do you balance this when soldiers come through with some of these emotional issues or different ideas of how things should be versus a very tough being in a very tough area in terms of there's lots of rules and ways that they have to conform to.
Yes.
How do you undo that, or how do you keep it modern in terms of being progressive with times?
Yeah, I think technology is a necessary evil in my opinion. People always ask me, Chaplain, why are you on the internet? Well, that's the reason, because if soldiers are on the internet, if soldiers are using technology, I need to find a way to strategically be in contact with them. I might get a little teary-eyed here, but I tell my story about suicidal ideations as a young soldier. And I told a story one time, and I'm riding in my car, and one of the folks from TikTok in my inbox, and he said, Chaplain, I was an hour away from suicide and I saw your video. Right? And so for me as a chaplain, my job is to be a resource. And so if we can leverage technology and tell our own narrative, I think it's important. And then even though the soldiers sometimes are kind of telling their story and they probably should keep a little bit of private, I get an opportunity to message those soldiers and give them some advice from the senior level, right? How many young soldiers get to talk to colonels?
Right.
Probably not a lot. And so we can strategically leverage ourselves if we have the courage to use that technology in the right way.
Why does that touch you so deeply? What does that do to just your head and heart when you speak about it? And obviously that resonates with other soldiers as
Yes.
well, from top to lower levels.
Well, I live a very difficult life. As I told you before, I was molested at 10. It sent me into a tailspin, special education in the 8th grade, failed the 9th, 10th, and 12th grade. I was an hour away from suicide. And I tell you, my insides just break anytime I see a soldier in depression, anytime I see a soldier struggling. I just want to go to them and comfort them and give them the resources that I have to ensure that they get to the next level, because I know they see me as a role model because of my rank and my time in the military. So if I can leverage who I am to take care of them, I most certainly do it every time.
And you're doing a wonderful job. I want to
Thank
lighten
you.
things up a little bit. Now,
Yes.
during your visit to Malaysia here, do you plan to engage with any of the locals or other leaders? And
most
how
certainly.
do you view such interactions? How will they help to strengthen mutual understanding and respect?
Yeah, most certainly. Thank you for that question, because I came here early so I can make Friday prayers. We went down to visit the oldest mosque here, and then we visited the newest mosque, just sit down and talk to the locals to try to get a feel of what was happening. And then Friday prayer, I went to pray at the academy with all of the soldiers that were there, and we took like hundreds of pictures, right? They were so excited that an American soldier was an imam, and we took hundreds of pictures. Now, and then we just had an opportunity to meet with the chief of chaplains and his staff, and they gave us a briefing. And we wanted to to get information from them. They got information for us for future interfaith dialogues, to see how our chaplain corps works, how we work and advise the commander, and how they advise their staff and their commander. So it was a great meeting. We took about an hour. And then we had lunch after that, so it was phenomenal. And as anywhere, they mobbed me and took many pictures, and a lot of them follow me now on TikTok.
Well, as I also pointed out earlier, Chaplain is 1 out of 5 Muslim chaplains in the Army, and with his 2018 promotion to Colonel, SHABAZZ is the highest ranking Muslim chaplain in the US military, so congratulations.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say, in terms of what's happening in the world now with the violence and the hatred, how do you use your role to set those messaging and that records straight in terms of, you know, trying to bring more peace and love?
Yeah, sure. One of the verses in the Quran that said, "Don't let the hatred of a people move you to deal unjustly." My job as a spiritual leader is to help people bridge with love and compassion to ensure that their well-being is taken care of. If we just always think about hate of other people, sometimes it affects us internally. So my job as a chaplain is really exciting because we get to sit down and help people through those feelings, because emotions and feelings and all of that stuff is real. But how can I help you so you won't ruin your future based upon some impulse that you might have to do something hateful?
Because a soldier is human too.
That's correct.
And there's this perception that a soldier needs to be rough and tough and is always, you know, ready to go. But that is a misconception. That
is a misconception. And one of the great things about being a big guy, even though I'm a chaplain, you know, I can go in the weight room with the soldiers, I can go and run with the soldiers and do physical fitness. So they see that I'm a physical person, but also I'm a chaplain, so I have a soft center, right? And so that helps bridge that gap too. And so we do a great job of doing that as well.
Well, we'll take another quick breather. Don't go anywhere. A very exciting conversation happening here with a chaplain. We'll be right back after these messages. Seated with me today is Chaplain Colonel KHALLID SHABAZZ in the studio, talking a little bit about what is known as Ipacc, IPAMS and SELF. These are forums, seminars and conferences that are happening in Kuala Lumpur this week from the USARPAC and the United States Army Pacific. Chaplain, of course. Thank you so much for letting us into that world a little bit to really understand the role of a chaplain and why that's important. Now, as we look at this region, what is your day-to-day life like as a chaplain at the office?
My day-to-day, I get up about 3:30 in the morning to go and work out to make sure I take care of what's inside of me because I need to be strong, I need to be resilient for soldiers. If I go in at regular time, which is about 6:30, the soldiers always want to talk and they want to talk about problems.
So you need me time first.
I need a little me time because that's what I preach to the soldiers. You got to take a little me time. So I don't want to be hypocritical. So I take care of that. So I get to the office probably about 8:30, read emails, and anything that I can find that a soldier needs, I dispatch to their locations to make sure that I take care of them. So whether it's letters of recommendation, whether it's letters of character if a soldier's in trouble, or sometimes just having an opportunity to take phone calls from people from different parts of the Pacific who just need somebody to talk to and they don't want to talk to anybody in their chain of command.
What if it escalates to a point where it needs intervention? How do you come in then when there's pushback from the higher ups?
Well, that's a great thing about being a chaplain. So I'm like a kind of liaison between the two persons, or arbiter, and I get to go into a commander. Doesn't matter if it's a 2-star, 3-star, 4-star. I'm their chaplain, and I get to come in and tell the soldier's side if the soldier allows me, because you know, chaplain has 100% confidentiality. So I serve as kind of a mediator for those folks. And if the commander trusts his chaplain, you know, you have to build that up. Most of the time, they'll look at kind of take your advice on that.
The Army outwardly around the world is known for its harsh ways and a little bit of a top-down sort of style. What do you do, or how do you undo these situations where there is a top-down abuse of power or bullying, for example, that seems to be on the rise in many different segments around the globe?
Man, I tell you, one of the greatest things, I've been in the Army for 35 years, the job of the chaplain kind of helps bridge the gap to that. And I got many situations where I can talk to you about where sometimes cultural understandings may seem like, you know, harshness or bullying, but they're really just cultural misunderstandings. So I can go into that leader and say, hey, this is the soldier's perspective. And you know, most time, I got to be honest with you, it's solved at the lowest level.
Well, you've traveled across many countries in your role,
Yes.
based out of Hawaii right now.
That's right.
What impressions has Malaysia made on you since
Oh my
you've
God,
been here?
I love it here. I mean, I love it here. The food is great. The people are wonderful. Had an opportunity. We got a grab and we went around the city. Not only did some shopping, because I've been married 35 years, I had to buy my wife some stuff. But we got in the mall and we talked to the people. Malaysia is wonderful, and I'd love to come back.
Well, you know, the conferences, the seminar, and of course the forum is going to keep you busy in the next
That's
couple
right.
of days. Chaplain, just one message of encouragement, perhaps more to the youth at this point of time of
Yes.
the country. What would that be? And especially in the context of building stronger ties between nations, of serving
Yeah.
one's nation,
Yeah.
but also of self-service.
Yeah, there's an old saying that you're not a product of your environment, you're a product of your thinking. You know, I think a lot of times we think individually, but if you can think about nation, if you can think about serving your country in a way that's not emblematic just of the country, but of your family, and ensuring that the legacy that you leave is important to your heritage. I think that's why most of us as Americans, we come into the military because we're so proud of our country and we want to serve and do our part. And so if that kind of that attitude is embedded here or any other place, I think that would help the youth.
There are a rising number of people who are choosing to be non-believers
Yes.
for whatever reasons that are
Right.
for themselves. What would your perspective be on that? And how do you believe being a believer
Yeah.
has helped so many souls?
Yeah, I think the personal example of believers are really emblematic or could stir the heart of people who are so-called non-believers. You know, for me, I want to be what's called a real model. I don't want to be a role model of some guy that's an imam or a chaplain just playing a role so I can get promotion. I want to be a real ambassador to help people. I think if people of faith would help people and serve people, I think that could get people turned around and be on a different journey. If we're just going around telling people what they're doing wrong and how bad they are, I wouldn't want to be a part of that either.
That's right. Well, thank you for your time. Coming
Yes.
down here to Malaysia, of course,
Yes,
and
thank you.
seeing our nation for all its diversity
Yes.
and unity and harmony,
For sure.
that we have interfaith understanding as well. Well, that's all the time we have on the Nation Diplomatic Dispatch this time. As these conversations continue to strengthen cooperation across the region, we hope you've gained a deeper understanding of the nation and the world at large. I'll see you next time for conversations that truly matter.